Hello, I'm Talita and I am an au pair in France. And in this video, I want to talk to you about my thoughts on being an au pair and my thoughts on my career, thoughts on learning French, and a story about how I almost end up in Italy. And this is sort of a life update for my friends and family and for my subscribers too. Okay, so I am from Brazil, which is not such a rich country, bad currency, so far it's very difficult to travel abroad. And I saw the opportunity of coming as an au pair, a chance to learn another language, of course, and also a chance to travel here in Europe. And yes, indeed, I traveled a lot. I cannot complain about this. I went to the UK, for example, 4 times. I went to the Netherlands. I went to Switzerland, I went to Spain, and I also traveled a lot here in France. So I definitely can say I reached this goal. And when it comes to learn French, I have to admit that though I can speak the language, I don't feel so much comfortable speaking French. And I don't feel like I connect to people the way I would like to connect when I speak French. It's not so natural for me. And also I started to learn French in an environment that wasn't so good for my mental health. It was always something related to work, and not really socializing. That I don't feel like I have so many good feelings related to my experience of learning French, which is very common for people who live abroad. I know many people who, for example, hate English because they learn English in a very traumatic experience. And it's not the case for me. When I came to Europe, I was already fluent in English, so it never was a problem. And I don't think it's gonna be. But French was a lot, especially in the beginning, and especially in Paris, where everything is so people are always so busy and people are always so much stressed. Oh my gosh, they are so stressed all the time. And yes, they don't like to speak English so much. And when you also start to speak French with them and they know you have an accent, you don't speak so fast, they start to speak English with you. And sometimes, I'm sorry, French people with a terrible accent. Overall, I would say that my experience in France was very good to learn French. Still not the level I wanted, and I'm also gonna comment on this later, but traveling was very, very good. And also for my personal growth, I think that in Brazil and most of countries in South America, we are very attached to our families. We have very strong bonds with our family. And I'm not gonna say that European people don't have these, of course they do, but it's not the same level, of course not. Europeans are not as warm as Latin people, as Brazilian people, can never say that European person is as warm as a Brazilian, for example. As somebody who was always in a very protected bubble of my family and church, coming to Europe and living with other people in a completely different culture, in a culture where people are much more individualistic, it's a shock. It was a shock for me. Sometimes still is a shock for me how they think, because I feel like in Brazil, or maybe my bubble in Brazil, we had much more this sense of community, of thinking about our family, our friends, about the opinion of others around us. And here in Europe, I feel like people, they just don't care. Especially French people, they don't give F word about others' opinions. And this is very, very good. But to be honest, I think for my personal growth, I learn how to say no, and no, I don't agree, no, I don't want this. And in Brazil was so hard to do this without justifying my choices, my personal choices. Like, no, I don't want. You should just say in Brazil, no, I don't want. People are like, oh, you're gonna come? No, I'm not going. You're so rude. You read as a very rude person. And in France and Europe in general, if people ask you to do something, you say, no, I'm not going. No, I'm not so interested. They are like, oh, okay. It might sound a bit rude the way you answer, but they are more like they accept without asking so much to justify why you don't want, and it simply doesn't exist in Brazil. So yeah, for my personal growth, I think now I can clearly see my boundaries as a person, the things I like, the things I don't like, and if somebody's doing things to me like, no, this is not your space in my life. You are my friend, but you don't have the right of talking and about this with me and give me your opinion about this thing I didn't ask. So like, I think this topic is very, very, very good for my personal growth. And the second topic, I would say that's my master's degree and my career in general. Oh yeah, this is very, very difficult topic because in Brazil, I have my Bachelor of Arts in Language and Literature, which was a very good degree for Brazil, for Brazilian standards. And I cannot really see myself working anything related to this area here in Europe. Maybe if I do a master's degree in, I don't know, journalism, creative writing, creative writing, is it? Yeah, maybe something like this. So maybe I can be a teacher in I don't know where, because it's so difficult. Like, my degree was in Brazilian Portuguese. I mean, the Portuguese language and Portuguese and Brazilian literature. So even if I want to be a teacher in Portugal, which is the same language, different dialect, but same language, they don't accept my Brazilian Portuguese background. I still need a master's degree in education to be a teacher in Portugal. So yeah, I have this sort of conundrum in my life when it comes to my career, because I know I'm very talented for many things. I am very good at learning things in a fast pace, but I need a degree in another area or something, or a master's degree to be really seen as a professional here in Europe. Because my experience in Brazil was basically working as a teacher. I also worked in as a proofreader for a published house. Yeah, so okay, but what do I do with this in Europe, in a country where they speak French or English or I don't know which language? Yeah, it's quite hard, I would say. So when it comes to Korea, I have to admit that I'm still kind of lost. I have some idea of what I want to do, but there's so many ifs. If this and that, if that, that I just stopped pushing myself so hard in this topic as I was doing before. Especially here in France, I wanted to do some master's degree, but I don't have the French level that I wanted. Or if I want to study something, my degree in language and literature doesn't allow me to study this, etc. So yes, a very complicated topic in my life. And I wasn't approved in the master's degree I tried to study in France. It was kind of sad, and yeah, I have to move on. Nothing I can do about this, just moving on. So yeah, that's my next goal. I want to have my C1 level of French and a certified C1 level of French, which, to be honest, is not so far, but I never studied French in school. Yeah, I learned French in my experience in France, and I still have a lot to improve, but I know I'm not so far from the C1 level, which is the level I need to study a master's degree in France if I want, because English wasn't enough. Yes, now I know. I was looking for another family to keep working as an au pair here in Europe. I'm not gonna say the country, doesn't make sense to tell you now. But yeah, the thing is, so I found this family. It was a friend of mine who helped me to find this family, and I was so excited. I was gonna have my studio and my French course and all these things, and the process to go to this country wasn't be so complicated. Like, I don't need to go back to Brazil to ask for my visa. I don't even need to go to a consulate to ask for my visa, because everything's made online, which is lovely. But then the family decided to move to Italy, and I was like, oh my god. And they want me to go with them, which is very, very good, because, you know, Italy is Italy, and I would be leaving like so close to the ocean, you know, Mediterranean vibes, Italian food, Italian language, everything's so beautiful about Italy, but Italy is a very complicated country when it comes to immigration. And I would also have to learn Italian, which is definitely not something bad, but I'm still trying to focus on my French. So putting another language, especially a Latin language, would just mess me around. And I don't think this would be a very good idea, you know. Like, I love the idea of Italy, but it wouldn't really fit to my needs at the moment. Because, all right, I love learning languages. I think it makes me, it's clearly that it makes me very, very happy, but it's not the moment for me to put another language in my head in such a specific context. Because if I study Italian now and I get fluent, and yeah, okay, I know I can do this. It's not such a difficult language for somebody who already speaks French and has a native background in Portuguese. But it's different when you have time to learn the language and you just move to the country. You have to learn all at once, I would say. So I didn't feel it would end up in a very good way, and I decided not to go. And what I'm gonna do for the next steps, I still don't feel like it's the moment for me to share. But I'm not going to Italy. Unfortunately, my Italian dream is gone. I'm only going to Italy as a tourist. Not gonna happen. Italian version of Talita. Yeah, no, not now. So this was a life update. Very first life update in English, which is still a challenge. But I need to challenge myself sometimes, isn't it?